Oakland A's UK. Oakland A's UK.
But we were talking about fingers being crossed, and there is nothing that we want to cross our fingers more about than the A's staying in Oakland. The A's long-running saga in trying to build a new ballpark has taken another step recently, albeit one that perhaps not quite the leap we would really love it to be. And that's in regards to the complications of the California planning world, which I'm sure Karl and Jay, you are both immensely familiar with. Is that correct?
A bit, yeah.
A bit.
I mean,
Karl's in charge, and Jay.
Karl and I tend, like, when we're not doing A's UK podcasts, we actually run a construction business in California, and we've had to put in a lot of RFPs. We know our way around what's it
called? An environmental impact report.
An EIR. We know our way around an EIR, even if we might.
We had to get the zoning permit.
Thought you guys were going to admit that you ran Schnitzer Steel then.
It's great to run fake business because you don't have to be licensed for real.
Cool. Remember that tip, Karl. Yes, the draft environmental impact report was published by Oakland City Council on Friday, February 26th. Lots of pages in there, lots of details. Can't say I really understood a lot of it. Our friends at A's Fan Radio are apparently going to look at doing a few podcasts or a few broadcasts about it to go through the detail. To run through all of the important points. Apparently, there's now a 45-day consultation period for people to pass comments, probably most of which will be from construction companies and steel companies who want to moan about it, despite them being the main policers in the area currently. The hope is that the City of Oakland and Port of Oakland will both vote on it by the end of this year, but that's still up in the air. Guys, we've been talking about a new ballpark for the A's for probably about 20 years, I guess. Are you confident about this one, or is it hard to have any confidence, Jay, in bearing in mind the history of the A's trying to get something done?
So, I mean, I'm cautiously optimistic, but this is the farthest we've ever gotten with the new ballpark anywhere in the Bay Area. Like we've never gotten to the environmental impact report part before. And so it's nice to be here. It won't mean anything until shovels are in the ground, and I won't celebrate anything until construction starts, because anything can go wrong until then.
I'd wait until opening day, Jay. We're all familiar with the new Met Steyr.
But yeah, no, I think so there's more reason to be optimistic about this than any A's stadium that has been brought up or proposed since the Coliseum was built.
Yeah. And I know that the plans are for about 34,000 seater ballpark on the waterfront with a hotel, offices, performance center, all of that sort of stuff that you expect in a kind of modern downtown ballpark. It's not just the ballpark, it's building all of the stuff around it, which is why the A's have been, there was a recent article on The Athletic by Alex Coffey talking to Dave Cavall about it. And it's clear that they don't really see the Coliseum site as being a great alternative, Karl. I know part of that is simply that they want to redevelop the Coliseum site, which they own half of, and do the ballpark. It's kind of not just one thing, it's two things together. But there is always the issue as to whether if you just built something new in the same place, would it make any difference? What do you think, Karl?
Yeah, well, I can understand the reason of wanting to move to that downtown stadium because of how other teams have done it. And this was a big reason Cavall was brought in for, because he did it for the earthquakes, where when they were created back, they were playing, if I'm not mistaken, at the Santa Clara University Stadium. Then they got Avaya built, which it's not overly built. It's decent amount of seats. It's right by the freeway and airport, so it's easy to get to. And it didn't cost too much. If I'm not mistaken, it was under $300 million for them. And with this stadium, it doesn't look like there with the plans to have, let's say, like 40,000 seaters, because we know most games those seats aren't going to be filled. You get about 30,000 plus, you could fill those most games, and especially where the A's are located, it'll be more desirable. I can definitely see the plans going forward. It's just, obviously, as Jay said before, until the shovel's in the ground, we can't even think anything, because we can know they just go back on it.
Yeah, we know there's going to be various different challenges of different people with their own interests. People that work on a port, they don't want their operations to be disrupted by it. So it's going to be a battle. And I know Dave Cavall is cautiously optimistic, as we've talked about. And it does feel like Dave has really led the efforts. He certainly, I know we've spoken previously about the way he's tried to rebuild relationships with the local community and with fans after fans being pretty fed up with the A's potentially trying to move away to Fremont, and then it was San Jose. But he's been the one who's led all of this rooted in Oakland thing, Dom. And when you look at the plans, I know we both saw the renderings, that the most recent ones that have come out. I mean, it looks fantastic. The only issue I had with it, they've moved the opening. So the opening was in center field. It's now more in right field, which seems to pretty much take out any right field bleachers. I don't know if that's going to be added in, but it does look very impressive. I was surprised I couldn't see any pictures of you in the renderings, though, Dom.
They're hoping that I'll be there in person, so they won't need a cutout.
Good.
That's the aim.
I think Jorge was in there. I think he tweeted. I think he found himself in there.
Oh, was he? Oh,
Yeah,
fantastic. I think our friends in Oakland were very excited to see the new renderings. I think this is, as Jay says, it's not. It's the furthest we've got with a new stadium. But for the guys in Oakland, it's also the first time they've had renderings of a new stadium in Oakland that was realistic and that all the fly through renderings and everything. So it's exciting for them. I just really, really hope it comes to fruition. I think the news that we shared on the last podcast was a bit of a red herring. Our friend Alex at The Athletic did a good article on this, and it looks as if the good news as it was shared was potentially just a red herring, in that it opened up the environmental impact study or impact report. But it didn't. It's been appealed, the Schnitzer Steel thing, and that then goes to a higher court that doesn't have to pay attention to the lower court. So obviously it's better than them going in the other direction and saying that the A's don't have the fast track on the environmental study. But that fight isn't won yet.
No.
So I cautiously optimistic, I think, is probably the phrase.
Yeah, and